have to do it, so...
Yeah, we're doing it. It's fine. We're doing it. It's too late now.
It's so late now.
We'd never rehearsed that at all. And it was, out of everything, the scariest act that we were going to do. Sometimes I think that, like, it would have been cool if we, like, painted a big bit and then, like, stepped back and looked at it or something. But I also sometimes feel as though that would have been too polished. Like, it was such a genuine moment of us just trying to, like, get a little bit. And and looking at the images of us, like, crouched down, getting our little space. Actually, I was like, that kind of works for me. It was such a genuine moment of us, like, we're going to take our little space. We're going to, we're going to get in there. We're going to get it. Yeah, and I feel like if it had been a big wall and we'd stepped back and we'd felt this moment, and had a sort of, like, bow at the end of the performance, it would have been something different.
You are standing in front of the South Bank Undercroft. You will watch from behind the handrails, as people do. There are 2 women in the space. They may not be alone. There may be a few other people, most likely male. There may not. But the only certainty now is that there are 2 women in the space. They have skateboards. They are putting on safety gear. They do not know how to skateboard, how to shred. They have been practicing. One is slightly better than the other.
Tiffany and I discussed how after the weeks working there, we felt emotionally exhausted. We felt as though it had been like a condensed adolescence. Within like a 3-week period, we'd revisited our, like, teenage years of just, like, a bit of shame and discomfort and feeling like you're being judged.
When the South Bank Centre was built, the Undercroft was intended to be used as a public space, but with no designated purpose. The opening of the space coincided with the rise of skateboarding and was quickly appropriated by the skateboarders, and has been used as a skating venue for over 40 years, with people travelling from all over the world to skate here. In 2013, the South Bank announced plans to redevelop the festival wing. Part of the £120 million plan was to fill in the Undercroft with retail and cafe spaces whose revenue was intended to partly fund the plans. The people who have come to use the space, to skateboard, BMX, graffiti, joined together to create a campaign to save their appropriated space. Their campaign was called Long Live South Bank. And after 17 months, South Bank conceded and scrapped their plans to redevelop the Undercroft, allowing the skateboarders to continue using the space. It was lauded as a win for public space and for community.
First, we learnt how to stand on the board. Then we learnt how to push and how to roll. We push and we roll.
And we roll. Fear is one of those things that as soon as you feel it, and as soon as you realize that it's okay, and as soon as you kind of know it, it dissipates. I feel like you can't, like, conceptually talk about fear or talk about it intellectually. You just kind of have to do the thing that scares you, and then it changes you. And that's what I think is the sort of, like, radical potential of performance, is that it's about bringing a group of people together to experience something actively that can only really be experienced in order to, like, elicit change in some way.
Tina contacted the LLSB to try to arrange a meeting to talk to members of the campaign. This is what they had to say. As a heads up, two integral aspects of South Bank is that it is not a skate park, and area designed specifically with skate tricks in mind.
It is a found space.
It is a found space,
And
skateboarding is not a performance.
The audience is a
byproduct of an increasingly reduced space, creating a close proximity between skater and observer.
The
campaign was to preserve a self-evolving culture, and the increasing request to use it as a performance space would lead to a corruption of that organic evolution and contrary to the campaign aims. We just want to ensure we give time now to only those that really understand and care about skateboarding, culture, community, and public space.
We had ideas about like how it was a public space, but it was actually kind of privately used by a community, and it wasn't necessarily a public space that we felt, that Tiffany and I felt comfortable in, because we didn't belong to their particular skateboarding community. So we had a fear of entering it.
Friday morning,
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
The space is empty. It is my first time into the space. I had walked past, I had looked in, but I never had before entered. Crossing the handrail into the undercroft made me feel like Lucy, crossing through the wardrobe full of fur coats. It's such a different perspective from inside. I felt exposed and aware of the passers-by, but I felt safe. It wouldn't be as empty as this again. It was the first time we skateboarded in the space. We didn't do the space justice, but it was ours to be used, ours to skate in. Just as we left, a group of BMXer boys filled the undercroft. I let out a sigh of relief. God, we left just in time. But in our joy, we realised, why should we leave? Why are we skating only when it's quiet? Why are we so afraid, and what of?
We did explore other times, but we kind of went on the opposite. We were exploring times that were less vulnerable, and then, which is why we chose the 2:30, because that's when it started to get busy. A much more daring act would have been if we'd performed at, say, 7 o'clock.
Wednesday, 6 p.m. The undercroft was alive. It was strongly illuminated and charged with masculine energy, and over a dozen skateboarders weaved between one another, trick after trick, fall after fall. It was almost uncomfortable to watch. So many failures, so many bruises to be, and I knew how much it hurt to fall. But they didn't show it. They had earned their right to this space. On this evening, we did not cross the handrails.
Running into walls. We keep running into walls. We keep running into walls. Keep running into walls. We keep running into walls. We keep running into walls. Keep running into walls. We keep running into walls. We keep running into walls. Keep running into walls. We keep running into walls. We keep running into walls.
Order! There's far too much noise in this chamber, which makes a order!
So many of the people that we met in this space ended up being so incredibly sweet. Just young boys, dopey London surfer types. But it wasn't about whether the boys that use the space are nice or not. It was about the nature of like fear and gendered spaces. And the fear is always the unknown, right? And then as soon as you know what that unknown is, it's no longer scary.
Something that annoyed me about the Undercroft, something about it being celebrated as a win for public space, when I didn't feel as though it was a space in which I was welcome. The idea of public space goes hand in hand with ideas of freedom and license to express oneself, a confidence of habitation, a confidence that I've always felt eluded me. And maybe it's a stretch, but I've always thought eluded most women, as we are taught not to be, but to be seen. So, yeah, as I entered this space for the first time, I couldn't help but wonder if somehow public space was a male privilege. Because even after all this time, A woman's place is still in the private spaces, but even private spaces are just varying degrees of public, varying degrees of being seen rather than being. Negotiating the complexities of female space in the public and private is like trying to find a way out of a tall walled labyrinth. There are walls everywhere, either internal or external. I know you are watching me. I am watching you. Watch me. It's okay. I've asked you to watch me. Do you like the way I move? I can tell your eyes are approving, disapproving. I am in this space. I'd like to think I'd still be here, even if you weren't. I'd like to think it doesn't matter if I'm seen.
There are two women in the space. They may not be alone. There may be a few other people, most likely male. There may not. At this time of day, there is not usually anyone else around. But the only certainty now is that there are two women in the space.